Good morning, friends. Thanks for joining us this morning. This is Journey Home Meditation, and you are here at the morning sit, for the morning sit, with the morning sit, in the morning sit. Let's just begin this practice just by taking a few conscious moments to settle into our bodies and in this space together. Taking just a few moments to catch your breath, slowing down those mental processes that just tend to bulldoze their way through the world. This is an excellent way to share love, to give love in any moment. And what I mean by that is when we can recognize that one of the functions of our mind is to forward an agenda. Our minds are always forwarding an agenda of some sort. So whether that agenda is get food, make coffee, find safety, whatever it is that we are setting our mind to. See, this is where those turns of phrase, the figures of speech, to set your mind to something means to focus your attention on something, right? That's pretty obvious. But our mind does that kind of on its own. We spend a lot of our days functioning on autopilot. And we do this for a lot of good reasons. One is the privilege of thinking about our breath brings us into mindfulness and brings us into our body. But could you imagine if you actually had to process the thought of breathing every time you needed to take a breath? Or blinking. These automatic functions of our mind to keep us moving towards our agenda are sort of a necessary built-in function of our brains, of our bodies. So recognizing the difference between my thoughts, my conscious thoughts, and the way that those can influence my behaviors in any moment, even my subconscious influences on my behaviors. The thoughts that are way far in the back of our mind, or the way that we think, well, I'm thinking this thing, but I'm behaving differently. I don't know how much truth there is to that. I think that oftentimes when we are focusing our mind on a thought, obsessing on a thought, or fixating on a thought, all of our actions, behaviors, and reactions are a product of that. They become subject to that agenda, even in subtle ways. A really good way to notice this happening in your life is when your mind is racing with a bunch of thoughts that revolve around negativity towards yourself, especially, or towards others, judgment, fear, exclusion, all of these ways in which we begin to create narrative around our belonging or another's belonging in this world. Notice how your energy and your behavior may be off-putting, even if you're not expressing those thoughts out loud. Notice how you may be affecting others and you may be having rough interactions with people. This is a way to notice what I'm carrying that I may be unaware of. And our thoughts really do matter. And our ability then to interrupt our own thought processes, to slow down for a few conscious breaths, this is a loving act. And this is a way that we can provide that love. So let's take a few moments for some conscious breath. Just feeling the breath moving in and out of the body. Soften your bellies. Let your belly grow and contract with each in and out breath. Relax the shoulders. Bring the shoulder blades just slightly together in the back. Just enough to open the chest and open the heart. Palms facing upwards can help with the shoulders rolling open just a little bit. Notice if you've had a racing mind, there's almost a feeling of forgiveness that can immediately start to come up when you start to slow down your body and your mind. Like, oh, there you are, friend. There you are. It's good to see you. There's this feeling of homecoming. Begin to shift your breath to breathing in through the nose to the bottom of the belly, and slow and sustained in-breath, and then an even slower and longer out-breath. Breathing in. And breathing out. Breathing in, big bellies. Breathing out, contract. Breathing in. And breathing out. Find your rhythm and just be for a few moments. There are many ways to maintain this practice. There is no one specific way that anyone has to do it. But one thing I do notice in myself is that as I maintain this practice over the years, I find that coming into a posture that helps facilitate my breath is extremely helpful. And at first, I think it's a little uncomfortable, and some days it's a little difficult. But slowly moving our bodies and acclimating ourselves to sitting up as much as we can and finding a restful position for easing the breath. We want easing to be our goal with our bodies. Meet the breath with ease. This has been extremely beneficial, and now I find myself when I'm in meetings or teaching class, if I have the opportunity, I'm oftentimes seated with my legs crossed and my spine erect. And in doing that, the attention that I've learned to pay to my breath and to myself slowly emanates outward. And I find it much easier to pay attention to others when I'm not slouched and when I'm not sitting in a way that closes off my body, But when I do find myself sitting in that way, when I do find myself hunching down or closing in or crossing my arms, I find that it's often because I am protecting myself in some way. I might be hearing information that I find to be wrong or unhelpful, or information that I find to be disturbing in some way. And oftentimes I do it subconsciously when I'm facing criticisms or things that make it difficult for me to feel accepted in that moment. And again, I think that this comes back to a human need of belonging that myself and many of people that I speak to have a difficult time with belonging. And there's this fear of rejection that many of us carry around. Even if we think that we don't, oftentimes it's in the back pocket. Oftentimes that fear of rejection is so old and so ingrained in us that we don't even see it as such. Yesterday I was bit by a dog a couple of times yesterday. It was actually a pretty scary event. And at first my my initial reaction was to just try to bring as much calm to the situation as possible. The people who were with the dog, the dog's people, they were shaken up and upset and worried and concerned. I think worried that because their dog bit me, that law enforcement would be involved and their dog would be taken in or something, and they would lose something in their family. But I felt this urge and this need present to just say, no, it's okay. Like, I think that we're all going to be okay. This was, I didn't feel it was an aggressive attack by a nefarious beast. I felt that it was because of the events that unfolded. There was a deer that was in the road. I was stopping to remove the deer from the road so that the other deer that were gathered around it would not be hit by a car. But the deer that was in the road was not dead, but extremely injured fawn. So I sat and gave water and comfort while I waited for a friend to come help with that deer. And then people walking their dogs came by. A loud truck approached quickly, spooked the dog. The dog went to run, pulled the person to the ground, who was an elder gentleman. I went to help the elder gentleman up and grabbed the leash of the dog to pull the dog back so that there's no more injury and the dog doesn't attack the deer. And when I did that, the old man was screaming in pain from the fall for help as I approached, and the dog thought that I was the aggressor. And so the dog did what dogs do sometimes. The dog bit me, and I was able to, after a couple of pretty substantial bites, grab the leash of the dog and hold it away from me and get the leash to the other person that was with the dogs. And immediately upon getting the leash to the other person, the dog calmed and sat right away. So I could tell that this wasn't an aggressive dog. This was just a protective measure. And so I was, after helping the elder gentleman and tending to the deer and everything, I was explaining to them that it's okay. I'm not upset. I'm not angry. I don't feel there was an injustice, and it's okay. I think I'll be all right. They assured me that the dog had all of its shots and blah, 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 blah. This is not the story. The story is, as the day went on, I started recognizing that was the right thing to do for me in that moment. I needed to bring that calm in that moment. But what I also was doing was dissociating from my body and from the hard and difficult things that I was experiencing. And as the day went on, these things started to come up for me, and they came up with my breath, and they came up first in non-consensual ways. I wasn't in spaces ready for the feelings of anger or fear or trauma to come out, but I started noticing that I was being quite irritable. I was easily irritated and then expressing that irritation, and I was finding I had a very short attention span for anybody else or any other conversation. And all of this could have felt like I could have, continued to find reasons to blame others. Oh, everybody's just annoying me today. I could have said things like, I think there's something happening in the world. Everybody seems to be upset. Well, oftentimes when you think everybody seems to be upset, it's because it's you that's upset. That's the equivalent of driving a car with a busted transmission and thinking that everybody's car must have a busted transmission. Nobody can shift right today. But it's oftentimes us who are experiencing levels of dissociation from feeling directly, so we feel indirectly. We feel in the echo. It's like echolocation, like a bat sending a signal out and getting the echo back and understanding where everything is through that. It's like that with our emotions. We send our emotions out and get them bouncing back to us, and when they bounce back, we have a way to justify, oh, other people are feeling this thing, but it's really me. It's really me. And this isn't a prescription to say all things that you feel are you. There are righteous angers, there are all of these things. But if we repress those feelings, or if we dissociate for too long from those feelings, and we don't have and maintain a practice of associating with ourselves, oftentimes we can forget where I am in the us. And so we go on to social medias and we paint the world in the lens of our own experience. But one thing I know to be true is there is not enough pain that I could create in the world that would take away the pain that I already feel. There's not enough blame in the world to take away the shame and the responsibility that I already feel. So, what is there for us then is finding a practice of embodiment, finding a practice of being inside of who I am in this moment and figuring out what I'm carrying and recognizing our capacity in that moment. And that's it. That's it. So it's when the dog bites, it's what the dog does sometimes. When the mind races, it's what the mind does sometimes. When the body aches, it's what the body does sometimes. Yeah, we can spend all of our time trying to get to the root of it. Well, that dog bit because they weren't raised right, or that mind's racing because that person has a mental illness, or that body aches because their diet is whatever. Yes, okay, yes, we can continue to dissect everything and find what we think is the answer. Like life is a 22-minute long detective show, and we have to figure it out before the end credits. But I think we need to begin to ask ourselves, how is this easing my suffering? And how can I ease suffering in others if I don't do what eases my suffering? And we convince ourselves that dissociating from pain or stopping pain is the equivalent of easing suffering, but it's not. One can be in great pain and have little suffering. And this is true. Pain hurts, and pain's no fun, and pain can do a lot of things in our lives. But I've been with people who have great pain, and they don't suffer that. They feel the pain, they experience the pain, they express the pain, but they don't suffer the pain. And I think that in this way, as a death midwife, end-of-life doula, every death is actually just our teacher. It's not what we don't learn these practices to teach them to people that are dying. And there's a misconception that that's what we're doing. No, we learn these practices so that we can translate when we get a new teacher. And each death is our teacher. Each one of these people dying teaches us these different things about how to embody everything. So thanks for being here today. A bit of a ramble, but I would really like to share an Appalachian Elegy, but I don't seem to have the book in my arm's reach. So I'll have to find where that was placed. So maybe we'll see you tomorrow. Let's take just a few more silent breaths together. I'm going to invite the bell. And let's just try to set an intention in our practice today to take these moments of reassociating as often as we can, so that when we come up to someone, we come up to them with a wholeness of ourselves that can pay attention to them. Because that attention, that's exactly what we need. So, thanks for paying attention today. I love you all. Let's have the bell. Thanks for being here, everyone. Be well.